and I think that our other panelists are still struggling to get to this session. So I'm going to give the floor to Wealthy if she has one or two things. Wealthy, you also introduce yourself.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Weldy Amaribu, a penetration tester and a cybersecurity instructor, and then your friend. I'm really happy having everybody join for the meeting. It's an amazing thing to see that there are people that can always want to come to listen, either to get educated or to get better in their craft. So it's an opportunity for me because I know I'm going to learn from both the guests, the people speaking, the resource person speaking to us, my fellow host, Percy, and every other person who has joined. I may not be able to pick and read out everybody's name, but I'm really happy having you here. Um, I don't think there's too much to say about me. It's not about me and the host today. It's about the topic we have to discuss. Handling cybersecurity or being an instructor over time, I've realized that there have been a lot of questions about security and being anonymous. It's important for because I believe everybody here we know we are ethical hackers or we are doing cyber security ethically because we know that there are people who are learning the craft for other malicious reason. So, but we know we are talking to those who are here to solve the problem of digital crime and the rest of them. So there's always been this question. Okay. There's always been a question if you need to stay anonymous online, even as an ethical hacker, because by default, they feel being anonymous means that you don't want people to see what you're doing online so that you don't bring the different faces or different notice of. Okay, please help us put your mic on mute so that. Okay. So that's what I'm going to say about myself. I'm going to allow Mr. Percy to bring up every other resource person to introduce yourself so we can get started with the topic at hand.
All right. Thank you very much, Wealthy.
Yeah.
Uh, I would actually like if somebody can just define what anonymous is on the chat box, or if you can raise up your hand and answer the question, because I believe that we have people here from different backgrounds. Not everybody here is into ethical hacking. I see my friend Roxy here. He's a network engineer, and a lot of people might not know what anonymous and anonymity is all about. So I would like Mr. Austin to tell us a bit about does it actually mean to be anonymous online, please.
Okay. So being anonymous, first of all, I think the dictionary meaning of the word anonymous would help. So an anonymous person is a person who is not identified by a name or an or of an unknown name, or someone whose individual features are impersonal, or basically you don't know them. Let's just put it in very simple terms. You know, someone whose identity is unknown. You cannot trace the person's online identity to a specific or to a particular individual. That's what the word anonymous is. So, if in the context of what we are talking about, if saying whether a person should, a hacker should, an ethical hacker should be anonymous, it's basically saying, do you need to, as an ethical hacker, do you need people to know you all over, maybe on social media or everywhere? As an ethical hacker, do you need them to be able to associate what you do with your person? I think that's the entire idea. That's the entire idea of the question. So, do you need that publicity out? Do you need that publicity of yourself out there? We see a number of persons who are ethical hackers, like Wealthy just introduced herself as a pen tester. So, I mean, we see people like that here. So, but is it necessary as an ethical hacker to be anonymous? Is it necessary or not? That's entirely what the word anonymous is in the context of the topic here.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Austin, I don't think I can add anything to what you said because it's actually straight on, and I believe everybody here has understood. If you have, while the discussion is going on, if you have a question or a contribution, you can leave it in the chat box. I'm going to read it out loud. And we are actually going to continue. While he was talking, Mr. Patrick joined, but it seems that the network kicked him out. I can't find him on the call yet. Mr. Patrick, are you there? Okay, Mr. Patrick is not here. Now, I'm seeing some hands up. Mr. Cybertooth, do you want to say something? If not, can you kindly lower your hands? And Majesty, please. All right. All right. Keep your questions coming. At the end of the session, we're actually going to answer your questions. So I'm going to, with regards to what Mr. Austin has said, what do you have to say?
Okay. I think that if we give them everything, then we will not give them the opportunity to listen to the people who we believe is going to help us water the ground so we can build upon. If we have the resource persons here to speak to us, I think all of the things in our mind, because this is a very controversial conversation because I've had different arguments on it. So even if I share my view right now, me too, I'm here to learn. We actually created this webinar to learn, including me. So I want to first listen to the people who want to educate us and then keep my suggestions and questions for them. And I think that's what a lot of persons should also want to do because I think there's a lot of questions I want to ask. Percy, I don't know if you have your own questions to ask because I've seen people say, I want to be anonymous because I want to use a VPN, I want to use proxy and those kind of things. So sometimes I'm like, why do you want to do that if you are ethical? Maybe I may be wrong or I may be right. I'm just saying, but I really want to learn. Upon learning, then I can come up with my own questions. And I know a lot of persons watching or listening would have the same desire. So why not we start listening to our bosses?
Hello.
Thank you very much. You can see Mr. Patrick is here. I want to actually appreciate him for making it to the call. He's actually one of those people that I see him jump on spaces and give a lot of insights to help people who are getting into cybersecurity. And I would just like you, Mr. Patrick, to introduce yourself and give us your take on, and just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you, sir.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick. How are you guys doing today? Hello, guys.
We are fine, sir.
Okay. Percy, how are you?
We're very fine.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
You know, it's always good to jump on things like this so that we can, like you were saying, learn from each other, and because no one person is an island of knowledge, and in this industry, we need to be abreast of whatever it is that it's happening, So I'll start by introducing myself again. I'm Patrick Essien. I'm a cybersecurity administrator right now with VTF. VTF is a company in the US, based in the US. And before I transitioned into cybersecurity, I'm a security and safety engineer. I provide security and safety services for banks. Right now, I have over 21 banks that I handle. And basically, for the last 22 years, that's what I've done. Provide, security and fire safety for clients, both private and, commercial entities. So, but right now we're here to talk about cybersecurity, and let's get into it. So what do you want to know? What should we talk about? Talk about being anonymous, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I got disconnected, I think Percy was asking someone to just tell us what being anonymous is. So I'd like to hear that because I got cut off and I just probably just did someone answer that? Did
Yes.
someone answer being anonymous?
Yes, sir. Someone
What,
answered.
what okay, what was it? What was the response?
Mr. Watson, I think you should say with your words exactly what you said. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
All right. So basically, I was saying for someone to be anonymous, they have chosen to put their identity off the cyberspace in general, not just off the cyberspace. They have chosen to dissociate their personal identity with the work that they do, which is the ethical hacking. So you cannot create a relationship between their work and their person. So you don't know them basically when they work. You don't know who they are. You don't know how they work. They are working behind the radar.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Austin. So I just think if we want to talk about someone or anything being anonymous, I just think it's not about whether you're an ethical hacker or whether you're a black, about someone or something that refuses to be identified. You know, they refuse to be recognized for whatever it is that they represent. You know, so they just choose to, like, they're existing, but they choose to be identified as probably for some reason, you know. So that's just from my own point of view what being anonymous is. It doesn't really have to be because you're trying to disassociate yourself from being an ethical hacker, because I don't see, if you're an ethical hacker, why do you want to be anonymous? Why do you want to hide your identity? You know, so, but there must be reasons why, even being an ethical hacker, you still want to be anonymous. So first of all, I think we'll just start from why. Well, can you just run me through it again? So start from there.
Okay, you want me to say
Yes,
to you?
just exactly.
Okay. So we are covering does every hacker need to be anonymous on the internet?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Walt.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So it just for me for the first term, what's the motivation?
Okay.
You know, because everything we do in life, we need to be motivated by something. Some people they're passionate about what they do. Some people it's about money. You know, so whatever they chase to do in life, maybe they're going to get some sort of, you know, monetary gains, you know, out of it. So that drives, you know, their passion. But when it comes to hacking, I think, in my own opinion, I think you can be anonymous, or when you're an ethical hacker, you just there are reasons why you want to remain anonymous. For a black hat, okay, I'm getting some notifications that are like popping up on my screen. Okay, like I was saying, if you want to be a black, you know, hat, you probably have a reason why you want to conceal your identity. Some of it are probably because you're trying to run away from, you know, from taking responsibility systems, and you don't want to be recognized because you don't want to pay for what it is that you've done. Probably you did that for malicious intent, and you know that there are going to be legal, you know, repercussions, because in life you have to pay for whatever it is you do, be it good, be it bad. You know, you have to take responsibility, and you don't want to take responsibility because if you're stealing information, definitely they're being anonymous just to be able to, you know, perpetrate things like that. So they run away from legal repercussions. Some other persons try to protect themselves or try to be anonymous just because they probably are afraid of retribution. They might not really have a bad intention, but they want to expose maybe something that is happening, you know, and maybe depending on the entity, be it organization or government agencies, you know, sometimes these government agencies do things you know. So, and then some people want to expose those things, so they choose to be anonymous so as to be able to protect themselves from those agencies, those corporations. Because I can bet you in this life, corporations do employ people to hack into other corporations. You know, they pay people to do all sorts of things. So if you have such kind of information when you hack into their system, you want to remain anonymous. So, okay, so they don't, you know, you don't get targeted. So that's another one. And then, okay, and then we talk about ethical hacking. Some of us still want to be anonymous. I think, well, you're a pen tester, so I would like to ask, would you like to be anonymous when you're doing your pen testing job? You still like to remain anonymous?
I think it will depend the kind of company I'm working for at the time. Sometimes they don't even want you to show out that you
Oh,
are working for them at the time. Maybe you sign a non-disclosure agreement and you can't in any way or form get at their information. So I think those kind of deals stay completely anonymous. But if it is one where they
exactly.
don't care, then I could actually even use it to teach some student or something. So I don't stay anonymous. I think it depends on what I'm doing at the time. That's why I would
Okay.
employ that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So I still think even when you're within the confines of a contract, maybe you're being contracted to pen test a network, also still okay for you to remain anonymous. Why did I say that? So that you're not biased when you're giving your report, because sometimes if you, how will I put it right now? I just think it's just about not being biased. You know, when you're doing your job. Yes, you signed a non-disclosure. Yes, you're working within the confines of whatever contract or agreement you have with that entity. But I still think sometimes you still need to be anonymous in order to do what you're supposed to do and do it the right way. You know, because even when you work for companies, you have people insider threats and things like that. If people know that you're going to do this, they might put things to either hinder whatever it is you're going to do. So I think sometimes it's also good that when you're contracted as a pen tester, you still remain anonymous. So it depends on, like I said before, the motivation of being anonymous, whether you're using it for something malicious or whether you're using it for ethical reasons. All right, so I'd like to stop there for now. If we have any,
All right. Thank you
somebody
very
wants
much.
to say something.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. You've said so much, and I'm really, in fact, I'm learning a lot from what you're saying, and would also respect your experience in the field. I have a comment here from Cybertooth, which says that anonymous is for being secured, so all hackers should be anonymous. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Austin, that what do you think? Is it how certain is it that when the anonymous thing is actually helps a hacker or maybe a pen tester it actually helps the pen tester to be secured, because the comment says that okay, being anonymous helps you to be secured. So I want Mr. Austin to tell us, how do you think being anonymous helps a hacker to be secured actually?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that saying being anonymous helps a hacker to be secured is, I'd say it's ambiguous in a sense, because we need to first of all say secured from what? Secured from what exactly? So you are, okay. Okay, let me just quickly say this. I'd like to revisit what we generally refer to as a hacker for a very good reason. If you, I don't know if there's any pen tester here who has gone through the book, The Art of Exploitation. In that book, they defined a hacker in a very creative way that it completely changed the way I understand hacking and everything like that. So the opinion of the author is, historically, a hacker is someone who finds ingenious ways of using a particular thing. In this case, computer softwares and software technology. It makes perfect sense, because sometimes we talk about say life hacks. These life hacks are basically things that you can do to make your life easier. And that is the same thing with hacking too. So unfortunately or fortunately for us, technology has evolved so much, and so has the terminologies. And people tend to see hacking today as something that has to be overt or covert, sort of. You have to do it under the radar and all of that. It does not always have to be that way. For example, let's look at cryptography. Historically, some of the best crypto systems are the one in which the crypto systems are out in the open. Sometimes it makes sense for something to be truly secured. It needs to be out in the open. For example, when it's possible under certain circumstances that it would make sense that to ensure your security, your identity needs to be out in the open. Let me give you an example of that. This person is not a hacker per se, but I think it's a very good example to demonstrate why being anonymous may not always be good for your security. Jamal Khashoggi is a world-known journalist, world-renowned journalist for Washington Post. He had criticized the Saudi Arabian government several times for a lot of their extrajudicial activities, and he was trying to marry a Turkish woman. He went to Turkish embassy to process his passport, and something happened along the line. He was kidnapped and he was killed. His body was dissolved in acid. Everything was completely under the radar. However, people started to raise concerns because he went missing, and they said they were seeing some questionable white smoke in Saudi's consulate in Turkey, in the country. So later on, the Saudi government had to admit that yes, he was killed by some overly zealous loyalists to the government. Now, if that man had not been that popular, I mean, who would have known? He would probably have just been killed, and the story would have just continued. Nobody would know what's going on. So we don't always want to, as much as it might make sense to some persons to say, oh yeah, it ensures your security, that is not always the case. Like Mr. Patrick Essien has said, it's important to understand the reason why you are doing it. Why is it necessary? And think too also that you are relying on technologies that were built by other people to ensure your security, to ensure your anonymity. Now, how sure are you that your anonymity is completely assured? So, for example, the US government has been reading people's emails for a long time. The tech companies have claimed that these emails are completely secure. But if you build a technology with crypto systems, with cryptographic systems here in the US, a lot of the time, the odds are that the US government would know how to break it. So, if you want to talk about security and anonymity, and you have to rely on existing systems like VPN services that, of course, are built by who knows who, you cannot even assure yourself that you are going to be 100% secure in the very first place. So, the context matters. So we need to, first of all, think about why that is necessary in the very first place, and then think through about what technology we are using to assure ourselves of that before we can talk about whether it makes sense or not.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Austin. I believe we're all learning. So while he was talking, I saw Mr. Tatak. Mr. Tatak, you're welcome to this session. So I will give you the room to actually introduce yourself. Then, since we are also passing with time, I'll just ask you a very brief question. Mr. Tatak is actually an ethical hacker and a penetration tester. That means he has been able to do a lot of stuff with respect to with respect to ethical hacking. So I would like to ask you, Mr. Tatak, what have you actually lost, or what have you gained from maybe doing a penetration test or being an ethical hacker, being anonymous as an ethical hacker, or what have you lost from the fact that maybe you are not anonymous on the internet as an ethical hacker, or maybe while doing your job? So after introducing yourself, you just answer, you just give your take on the question. I don't know if the question is clear enough.
All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I've been here listening to the pros and the cons of everyone speaking and so on. So I have my own stand. My name is Tata Derek. Let me start from there. I'm a cybersecurity penetration tester, cybersecurity analyst, penetration tester, ethical hacker, auditor, forensic investigator. I do a lot of things in the cyber space. and I've been doing a lot, and I keep learning every day. So, as a matter of fact, being anonymous is a debate I've had with a couple of friends for a lot of times. Like a whole lot of times, we keep talking about that. But now there are some points I will be bringing up, and at the end of what I have to say, you'll be able to judge if being anonymous is actually necessary or it's not necessary. So, for instance, most of the projects I have, most of the contracts I sign, is because people hear about me. It's because people they go on LinkedIn, they say, hey, this guy is a pen tester. He can do this job. Hey, this guy can do that. For like few days ago, a few weeks ago, I put on my LinkedIn how I was put on a flight within 24 hours or within 48 hours to actually run a forensic investigator in a different country. Now, why am I talking about this? How did these people know I could run forensic investigations? Because I was not anonymous. Because they actually know I can do this. I'm an ethical hacker, and ethical hackers are not meant to be anonymous. They are meant to be known especially for those who are doing freelancing. They're meant to be known. So projects are handed to them. All of the projects I've had, all of the projects I've been called upon is definitely because I've been anonymous. So if you want to be a pen tester, people need to know you can do pen testing. You talk about your projects, you talk about the things you've been doing. That's the first thing. If you want to be an instructor, because I'm an instructor too, I'll be mostly talking about myself. I'm an instructor too. I teach in some universities and so on. So these people come and they say, hey, we need a cybersecurity instructor for A, B, and C. I don't know. I've gone through your profile and your profile ties with what we need. And doing auditing, they equally come and they propose auditing stuff for me, ethical hacking, and so on. So now, I'm not saying there is no space for those who are anonymous. Like now, I went for a conference in South Africa. Getting there, we signed an NDA. The NDA stipulated that everything that happens inside should not be snapped. Like no picture, no recording, and everything. So my question was like, why are they saying we should not take pictures about what's going on? I mean, I want to post what I'm doing. So I realized that there were guys from the Secret Service in the meeting. There were guys from different kind of intelligence you can ever imagine. So these people will not want guys to know that they work for the Secret Service. So in Cameroon, they call them NDIC. NDIC are some kind of people that kind of infiltrators. They infiltrate a lot of things. And while they infiltrate, they will not want people to know that they work for the government or they work for some kind of people. And they're cybersecurity guys too. So now this is where the anonymity pays. But you are not the one being anonymous right here. There are a lot of systems that are put in place to keep you anonymous by the government. So I'm not sure, or correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anyone here that works for the Secret Service, for instance, those are the guys that you may not actually know what they do. For instance, you see Snowden. Snowden was working for the NSA, contracted with the NSA, CIA, blah, blah, blah. His wife home didn't even know that that's what he's doing. This is a true life story. So at times, the anonymity gets to the level where even your wife doesn't even know what you're doing. Now, this one is for some particular cases. But if you are getting into cybersecurity, people need to know that this is what you're doing. If not, you die broke. I know what I'm talking about. You'll be so skilled and anonymous that no one is going to call you for any job. But it depends now on what you're doing. People like me, if I get into cybersecurity, like intelligence right now, there are some things I'll not be doing again. There are some things I'll not be talking about online because there are some NDAs assigned that I can't be talking about these things. Now, I'll be landing with this particular one. If you are doing pen testing, there is black box pen testing, there is white box, and there's gray box. Once you're doing black box pen testing, your anonymity skills should be top notch because while you're doing the pen testing, people shouldn't know you're doing the pen testing, maybe apart from the contractor or the person who contracted you, like the CEO and so on. Those are the people that need to know you're anonymous, for instance. That they need to know that you are doing the job. But the rest of the company should know you're anonymous. It simply means you should work on your anonymity. And this group, known as the NSO group, you can check the group NSO group. This NSO group is a group of Israeli guys, the guys who build the Pegasus system. Most of us know about the Pegasus. We know about the Pegasus because they're not anonymous. Governments are paying these guys to sell the software to them or the tool to them so they can spy on people. So we know the the tool is created by NSO. NSO is in Israel. If you want to get to them, you contact them through A, B, and C. So to me, if you want to be anonymous, it simply means that the only choice you have is to be anonymous because you are kind of a secret service or you are kind of an undercover kind of agent. But if you are getting into cybersecurity, people need to know what you are doing. So that's my own take on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tata Derek. I've always looked up to listening to you talk in events. As long as I see you in any event, I just want to be in that event because webinar, seminar, um, Twitter space, wherever it is, as long as I see you speaking there, I just want to go because I know that there's always something to learn. Maybe because I'm trying to model you anyway. I just had to say that now. Really, you've said a lot.
Oh my God, thank you.
He said that I picked every point. I think there was a point he said when you get contracted as a pen tester and you are asked to maybe do black balls, then at that point you start considering being anonymous. Not when it's a white boss hacking or something. You want to come and start staying anonymous. And then there was something he said that stood out for me. He said, if you don't want to go broke, then go and stay anonymous. And that's true because most of the students I've gotten to teach or even the jobs I've gotten to do was from either LinkedIn and others of my social media platforms. So I was not anonymous. So that is why I think what you said totally goes for me and any other person who is listening. So I would want Mr. Austin James to probably, if he has more things to say as regarding, because we're not doing for or against, we're saying these people have been there before us. Before me, I don't know because this is a crowd of this is a 3 people listening, so I can't speak for everybody. But these people are ahead of me, and I feel like wisdom is heard in the mouth of the elders, and that's why I'm here to listen. So I would want you to share more if you have something to say before we get to Mr. Patrick, and then read the comment section if there are contributions, and then I allow the floor to be open to listen to other people who have very intelligent suggestions to add. So, Mr. James, let's listen.
All right. Thank you very much. I'd like to corroborate what Mr. Derek had said. Very rock solid points. So, once again, as an ethical hacker, your work is to find creative ways to exploit a system. That is, we do that for security reasons now. So primarily to exploit a system. Now, for as long as that is the case, one of the reasons why not being anonymous is good is because that is one of the ways in which your work can be appraised. So we have cybersecurity has lots of communities. Now, basically in the corporate setting, we have STIGs, for example, and a lot of other communities generally. So when you work, you need that publicity. You need your community to be able to say, okay, this is very wonderful. Okay, basically when you put out your findings, people are able to say, okay, this is very wonderful. Okay, this research of yours or this discovery of yours, this is where it has flaws. I think this is not exactly how it should be done, or the methodology you had used is flawed or something like that, generally. So, I think it's called peer review. Yeah, it's called peer review, sort of. So it's one of the benefits of not being anonymous. Being able to get people to appraise your work. When you're anonymous, nobody can appraise your work. And you know how we say it in security? They say security by obscurity is not security. If you are doing something and people are not able to say, no, this thing you are doing needs to be improved upon, or this thing you're doing, you need to work on this or you need to work on that, then that's not security. It defeats the entire purpose of security. So it's important to, first of all, to examine what you do, why you do what you do. Generally, context matters. Context matters. You may never need to be anonymous. You may never need that. And okay, I'm going to say this once more. When we talk about anonymity in your identity, we also need to understand that there's still context. So, for example, Mr. Derek talked about when you are doing black box pen testing. Yeah, that basically means that you are anonymous to the people you are working for. It does not necessarily mean that you, as an ethical hacker, you are anonymous on the cyberspace. Like he had rightly said, I mean, he has a LinkedIn profile, and virtually all of us here do. So we need to keep that in mind. You may not want, it might not be healthy for your professional growth if you decide to be completely anonymous. Maybe there might be some use case for that. Yes, we cannot rule out anything, but it might not be good for your career growth to try to attain complete anonymity. However, in certain cases, when you get certain projects, it might become necessary for you to be anonymous for that particular project. In other words, you have done the work. Yes, a pen tester has done this work, but we don't know who that pen tester is. And let's leave it that way. Of course, there are lots of ways that can be ensured. A lot of companies prefer to use the non-disclosure agreement, especially if it's in the corporate world. If it's in the government agencies, then they go above and beyond to ensure that you are completely anonymous and nobody knows exactly what you're doing. So we need to bear that in mind as we do what we are doing. If you're considering going anonymous, you need to first of all think about the fact that you need to fund your career. If you have gotten your funding sorted out, and maybe for whatever reason you have decided to go on a lone journey to maybe witch hunt black hat hackers in the underworld, that is perfectly fine. If you know how to fund that yourself, that is perfectly fine. It's a personal decision. However, if you hope to get jobs from people on the cyberspace, then it's going to be foolhardy to decide that you want to be anonymous. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's really amazing. Thank you for the contribution. So, Mr. Patrick, if you're on, we would want you to let's be a bit if you're on, please help you could speak. If you have more things to say, you can speak to us. But I'm not seeing you, and if I'm not seeing you, then I would want to Mr. Percy.
He's actually Mr. Patrick is here.
Okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Patrick.
I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Patrick, please if you have some something to add to what you already established, would want to listen. Thank you, sir.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Because
sir.
I'm getting very poor audio from you guys. I can it's like dragging, the voices are dragging. So I want to try to log out and log on my mobile phone. Let me see if it's gonna be clearer. So just give me like a minute, please. If you can hear me.
Well, we'll give him a minute. Mr. Percy, please can you read from the comments? Let's see what the people are suggesting or their own suggestions and comments. Mr. Percy. Percy.
Yes.
Okay, please read from the comment section. Let's see what the people are suggesting. And please, if you know you have something to say, please use the raise your hand with the raising hand button so we can bring you up. So, Percy, please read.
All right. There was a question asking that what about those people who don't have an identity on the internet? I think the question was from Mr. Cybertooth. Said,
Okay.
what about people who don't have an identity on the internet?
I don't think I understand the question, but is that the only question there? So we could just continue.
That's the question I saw there. The rest were just comments and contributions with respect to the fact that actually ethical hackers are supposed to be anonymous on the internet.
Okay. If Mr. Cyber Toothford can probably on his mic and ask the question, because I don't think I got the question to even direct it to any of the resource person. So if you could probably on your mic so you can ask the question so we can listen to you, it would be better. Okay, if maybe he's not here, he just said that and left. So I want to ask a question, and I'm directing my question to. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question was that What about those that don't have online identity?
So I want to direct the question to Mr. James. Mr. James is asking, what about those who don't have online identity? What's your answer to the question? But I think Mr. Seifert, your question is totally not complete. What about those who don't have online identity? What are you asking? Is it that they should they stay anonymous, or they should they not stay anonymous, or what is the question? Because it's just there, it doesn't have a complete meaning. So could you just make it complete?
I mean, they need for anonymity,
If you don't have an online
identity.
personality.
Yeah,
Okay, Mr.
yeah.
James is asking the question, sir.
Okay, I think I was actually heading somewhere when I tried to define hacking initially. I kind of derailed from it. So the reason why I'd like to, define hacking like in the way I was trying to do that before, is so that we see that there is a complete. I'd like to say there is a complete disconnection from what hacking actually is and what I personally, I believe some other persons have come to know hacking to be initially, at least initially. So basically, some of us, I believe, many people here, apart from me, may have had their understanding of hacking shaped by what we had seen in Hollywood movies initially. I mean, back then, if you had watched 24 when it was coming out, you remember Chloe. I can't remember the surname. Remember Chloe, that hacker that is always, punching her keyboards away and breaking through networks and, hacking nation states and criminals and everything like that. It used to be so much fun watching that. Right now, I know better. I know that that's that's not a realistic view of who a hacker is. Now, a lot of the time, hacking is hard work. That's one. Number two, hacking is beyond the fact that people see it as being cool. You're anonymous, you're breaking stuff. Hacking is a means of livelihood. It's what people do that as a day job. People do that to people build a career out of that, and it's important to bear that in mind while we talk about whether we want to be anonymous or whether we don't have. If you don't have, if your understanding of hacking had been centered around what we had come to learn in the movies, then I'd like to say first of all that is not exactly how hacking is in the real world. Hacking is even with all of the sophisticated tools that we have right now, it's extremely difficult to just wake up one day and break a nation state's firewall or break a criminal's firewall. They are always criminals, most importantly, especially always a step or two ahead of us. With that in mind, if you are going to build a career out of cybersecurity, it's important to pay attention not just to the fact that you want to hack and break stuff, but also to your career trajectory. How are you going to get? How do you get mentors? How do you get a job? How do you get paid? How do you negotiate payment? This is outside of the technical stuff. So while you might enjoy the idea of anonymity, you also want to think about your career. So personally, if I see someone who is hoping to become a pen tester someday and they do not have an online presence, I'd encourage them to try open a LinkedIn account, Twitter account, if possible.
Hi, Austin. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, I can. Can I continue?
Yeah, continue, please.
All right, so please, I'd encourage them to build a social media.
From your two things.
Okay.
One is, as you know,
Sorry,
All
we're
right.
speaking.
Okay. Sorry. I need to. So sorry. There's a mix-up somewhere. All right. So yeah. So we need to. It's important to build a social media presence first of all. That's where you can get. That's where a lot of persons have gotten jobs. Their jobs from LinkedIn, some from Twitter. That's also where you can learn a lot of things about what you want to do. I mean, if you are completely out of social media, personally, I've learned a lot from being in social media. I've joined lots of communities, and I believe that Mr. Derek himself and Mr. Patrick Etienne, if he's here, would also attest to the fact that they've benefited in one or two ways from social media, also from having a social media account. So you may want to consider that if you do not have a social media account as yet, if you want to be a pen tester, that is.
Okay, really, you made it very clear. If you want to be a pen tester, I know why we're picking a lot of pen tester ethical hacking, because they are the people who want to do, like you said, breaking things. They are the people who want to break things. They are the people who want to get into people's Wi-Fi, people's PC, people gadgets, and so it's like a conversation for them. But we already know that the penetration testers and ethical hacks are under cybersecurity, but they are like the people who want to stay anonymous. But he said something that ethical hacking is not just breaking things and feeling good, and like we see in the movies like Mr. Robot and the rest. He's saying apart from that, if you want to make it a livelihood, like you want to make pay bills from it, then you'd have to get a professional or a digital personality. Your footprint should be out there in the aspect of your career. While we're talking, Mr. Patrick, I think he's up now. Sir, can you now speak to us before we take the suggestions from the people? Please, if you know you're going to have a suggestion to speak with your mic, I want you to raise your hand so that immediately Mr. Patrick is done speaking, will allow you speak. So, Mr. Patrick, please go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, sorry that I'm having network issues. Okay, I wanted to second what Mr. Tata, I think, before I had network issues. What Austin James is saying right now. Like I said before, I started with what's your motivation for getting into the profession itself. Yes, like you just said, it falls under cybersecurity, but a lot of persons got into cybersecurity because they feel like pen testing, breaking things, it gives me the opportunity to be a hacker. But like I said in the space yesterday, when you're trying to build your technical and your soft skills in this ecosystem called cybersecurity, be it a pen tester or whichever sector of the cybersecurity domain that you belong to, like Austin just said, you have to build a personal brand. That's one part that I see a lot of young, let me call them young professionals, are not really looking into. Everybody just wants to get the skill and then think about the six figure, but they're also not building their brands. Because if you say, like someone said, if you say you want to be anonymous, it depends on the mentality in which you brought into the industry. Like for me, I would say I started with that same thing of thinking, okay, you want to get into cybersecurity. Should I stop?
No, continue, sir. Continue, sir.
Can you hear me?
Please continue,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. Continue.
Yes,
Sir.
sir, go ahead.
Like everybody getting into the system, you always think, okay, the first place you want to be is to break things. I want to be a hacker, But as I went along, I discovered that that's actually not even my passion because, like I said, over 20 years I've been protecting people and I've been protecting organizations. I've worked for the UN. I've protected like 5 UN formations. So why do I now want to start breaking things? But the only thing, I started with that. I got the knowledge of being a red teamer, knowing how they think. Because sometimes when you want to protect something, you really need to know how the bad guys think, so that you can put my clients that whatever we put in place to protect you is not going to stop someone if they really, really, really want to break into your facility. It's only going to keep them at bay, and then for you to be able to get the authorities or get people to come help you, but it's literally not going to stop if they really mean to. So if you're building a career in cybersecurity, you want to be an ethical hacker. Like someone said, if you're a black hat, definitely you're not going to be known, except you just want to be stealing things and then demanding ransom and the rest of it. But if you want to be an ethical hacker, you need to have a profile. You need to have a brand. You need to put yourself out there because, like he said, I actually got a recommendation and a job via LinkedIn, and someone just reached out. And then from discussions and everything, I had that little opportunity, and I took it. I took it because I wanted to also know how it is to get, because it's not really easy for you to get a job in the cybersecurity domain right now. You really need to try. But at least working with them for a while is going to give me that experience based on, whatever it is that I've learned along the line. So, guys, you really need to build your personal brand. Don't just, you see people talking about even ethical hacking, talking about being a pen tester, but you check their profile, you don't see anything that actually sells their skill, that actually sells their brand. Because sometimes, like when we're discussing right now, someone is going to click on your profile and try to investigate you. And then what are they going to see? So at the end of the day, is it going to be for your own profit? Because at the end of the day, why are we working? Why am I where I am right now? I came down here because I want to make money. So I'm not going to leave my family and travel thousands of miles just to go become anonymous. So like, it depends on the motivation. It depends on what is driving you. You want to steal from people, then you want to remain anonymous. But if you want to actually create a brand for yourself, if you want to stop the bad guys, then you need to have a brand. And they need to be able to tie that brand to you as a person, as Patrick Essien. Because right now, I'm also building a brand, and the brand has gone to a level where some people identify me as my brand. Some don't even know you as Patrick Essien, but they know you as a particular, a particular brand, and then they want to identify with that brand. And then, like I always say, when you get that skill, then that skill is going to, bring money at the end of the day. So we can take questions now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think there's a way you speak, and then like it repeats the point I took. It repeats it again, and I like that because then that's called repetition, and I learn better with repetition. Thank you very much, sir. And I believe every other person who is listening is actually jotting something down. Mr. James raised his hand. He said he has a contribution to make. So please put the mic on. We are um almost 1 minute to the end of the meeting. So this is going to be more of questions and answer before we do the necessary and we all go. So Mr. James, please, we're going to just take 1 minute to have either your suggestion or your question. So Mr. James, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Wealthy, this is this is Archaeologist. I didn't use my other account to join.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm just this crazy guy that you know. I always have different. I always have different opinions, but beyond me having a different opinion in this regard, having listened to a lot of people speak on this topic, I must say that I do not completely agree with as far as we want to term it different opinions. This is my field too, right? And I've been privileged to work for some companies, UK, US, and Canada, right? And in a bit, I'll tell you why I said I disagree with you saying that you do not need to be anonymous if you're an ethical hacker, right? And from my experience as an ethical hacker, as a pen tester, I can tell you that, okay, let me give you a typical example. If you're a medical doctor, right? And by default, you just understand that you wash your hands. You just understand the value. You just understand the part of you trying to keep your hands clean, trying to, even when you see people trying to touch germs, and it irritates you. It's by default because of the nature of your profession. Now, one thing we're not getting here is no matter what aspect of hacking you're talking about, and I understand you're trying to say you're going to get a profession. When I got the jobs I got, which I still work for one of the companies right now. When I got the jobs I got, these people recruited me on LinkedIn, right? Now, I applied for a job actually, and let me tell you the most important aspect of their interview. They wanted to know how much I could manage to stay anonymous on the internet. And it started right from the interview. Now, I'm going to brush over that a little bit more. But here's the point. Just like a medical doctor, you're by default, you hate germs. That's how it should be for an hacker. You should be anonymous, whether you're doing it. I'm an ethical hacker, 100% ethical. Now, let me explain why you should want to be anonymous. Don't think about, okay, because you're doing it for the right cause, you shouldn't be anonymous. You shouldn't hide yourself. It depends on what we're taking hiding ourselves to be. This is your job. Okay, for instance, if you're being recruited into the Secret Service, which we have that a lot, if you're being recruited into the Secret Service, to, find corrupt people and expose them and do all of that. You cannot say that, okay, my job is to find corrupt people. Why do I have to hide myself? I'm in the secret service, but why do I have to hide myself? I will come out boldly and say, yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing what is right. You have to understand, everybody does not love the right thing. And there was a time that we had to take down some group of hackers, right? Okay, let me tell you something about hackers, which a lot of you would know. If you are targeting taking someone down, taking an organization down, or finding threats to protect a particular organization, or you know that this particular group of hackers are the one threatening this company, threatening this, you all will agree with me that the first step is to try to make sure that you are able to find out who the hackers are. That's the first step. Now, listen, if you are protecting an organization, let's say you're protecting a bank, right? They would want to find out who is protecting this bank. The moment they have access to you, they have access to the bank. That's how it works. So I've been hearing a lot of, okay, if you have the right mind, you don't really know. This is just as simple as by default, because you know what your information out there can do, whether you are a righteous person or not. You know how, if you just duck Google, duck Twitter, you see a whole lot of information that some people unaware carelessly leave on the internet, and by default, you as an hacker, you are just necessarily conscious of this. This is what I take as being anonymous. Right? You wouldn't say because you want to get a job in hacking, you would go all the way and say on your LinkedIn, I'm a penetration tester, I'm this. I mean, it works for some of you, fine. I got my job without adding as much as anything penetration testing. I can tell you that. And the company told me that if I had done any of that, and if they had found out that, okay, I couldn't even manage to keep my data because they actually had to find out who I was, and the worst they could do was my Twitter. That was the only information of me. For instance, I'm not joining this meeting with my pen testing email. I'm joining with Wealthy, we met. I'm not joining with my regular email. I'm joining with this because as an hacker, you're just necessarily conscious. That's what I'm trying to say. Anonymity belongs to every hacker. If you are doing right, it's more reason for you to be anonymous, because the moment these people are able to get to you, they are able to get to whatsoever organization you're doing. And for instance, if you're saying, okay, let me tell you a project we worked on, right? There was a group of people. What they were doing actually was to recruit young girls for trafficking. Right? We didn't get paid for this. I can tell you this 100%. We didn't get paid for this. And we needed to find out these guys. We needed to fish out these guys. The first thing we did was find out how exposed are these hackers that are doing this thing online. We needed to go after their information in the public domain. We needed to start from somewhere. We needed to do all that. Now, it doesn't matter if, let's reverse be the case, they wanted to be the one to come after us. They would start to do the same thing that we did for them. Now, don't forget that we are doing the right thing on our own part. We are not even getting paid for it. We just believe that we need to stop these guys. All right. Now, if they were to come after us, they would first start to look for our information in the public domain. This is what I don't know why we have come to take anonymity of a hacker as being evil. No. Anonymity of a hacker is, in fact, it's your, should I say, it should be your right. By default, you should know that as a hacker, your information, because you are sensitive now that you're an hacker, you know what information can do. You know what ripping information, you know what scraping data from the internet can do. So by default, you are aware of this circumstance. And so even when you're downloading an app, you're being very careful of the permissions that you're granting on the app. You want to read, find out more. Okay, what data does this app collect from my phone? What other apps does this data? Does this app how does this app interact with the other apps on my phone? By default, you're knowing all of this. You're being careful of all of this. That is what I see as being anonymous. Not as you trying to say, okay, you want to do evil and you're. That's why we have different types of hacking. We generally have white hack and black hack. So if you're a white hack, you still need as much anonymity as a black hack. I mean, I'm crazy, right? But this is my job. And I'm just saying it that I really don't think that ethical hackers should not be anonymous. No, we should. You should be immune to security breaches. You should be immune to information being out in the public domain by default. I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah.
just what I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. I really see where you're coming from. But I think I want to say something from what you said right now. I'm not going to give a lot of make a lot of points, but I think I want to say something. I think there's a difference between your work being anonymous and your personality being anonymous. One. And then I think there's something called the content you push out. By default, when I had the certification on OSINT, I used to be an OSINT analyst before I got into penetration testing. There was one thing we were taught. I think the first time I had the job, the first internship job I had was in a company, still not going to call the name, but not here in Nigeria. And I was given just a picture of someone in a country, London, to find. How I found this person was to go through social media platform and connect the things they were posting, the content and the information in the things they sent out. I was able to pinpoint. I had my mind map or my investigation board. I was able to bring it together, and I was able to share back to the company who need the information where this particular person is or was at the time. And I got that because of all the information he has sent out on the internet. Now, let's say I'm building my career as a cybersecurity person who is a penetration tester, ethical hacker. I wouldn't want to come and talk about my children there, right? I wouldn't want to come and talk about sensitive information. I could probably use a different account. It's called two personality. I don't know if you get what I mean. I could actually have this person that hacks or the thing. You never see me put out anything I've done like that's why I said when Mr. Patrick asked me what is my take on this, I said depending on the job. In fact, when I first started out, I had a lot of advice: put out your work on the internet, put out your work in the internet, you get a lot of people. I was doing that, I got jobs, but later I stopped putting the work, but I don't know how to explain it. I now talk about sensitive conversations on the net that people now know that, okay, if this person is bringing out this, then they can do this. So it's like I'm making you think for me. I'm saying security should be this, and I stop. But I didn't tell you, do you know, guys, last week I was able to do this, I feel the information you bring out is what should be anonymous and not your career. Because you said something that someone saw you on Twitter and gave you the job. If you were not on Twitter, you won't get the job. If you were not on Twitter, nobody was going to give you a job. And now there's something about connection. You could get the first job and that job could just cover. And maybe you got someone very prominent and a very strategic place, and they just keep bringing jobs for you, right? And you may never need to come to the space to look for a job. But there are people who never get those kind of connections, so they just have to keep pushing out their work. So that is where now knowing what should be anonymous and what shouldn't be anonymous, what should be brought out and what should be kept. And I don't think I think the only thing I've seen Mr. Tata Derrick push out educational content, and I'm like, okay, this is great. By default, listening to those educational content, you cannot just say he hacks or he's the person that hacks for this company or the other company, but you just know he knows those things. Then I think where it becomes crazy is when you bring out very, very sensitive information about yourself to the public. Brother, you're going to get hacked. It's just like saying a hacker being hacked. It was you who gave them the information to get you hacked. I don't know if I made sense, but I'm going to allow Mr.
All right.
Mr. 24. Just take 1 minute, please. And we're really out of
Okay.
time, so just take 1 minute to talk.
Well, thank you very much, and
Yeah.
big ups to all the speakers I've been speaking since from the beginning of this meeting. I want us to understand that anonymity
Mhm.
is either you being unidentified or unknown, because now you can be unknown. When you're building a brand, just like Mr. Patrick said, when you're building a brand, for example, now I am 24. Do you know me? Yes. Can you identify me? No. There are some things now that we need to like consider cybersecurity is not a one way, like same path for everybody or same like one way route for it. Like it's wider and everybody has different roles that you can use to just get to whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that is your goal. You can get it using different roadmaps, different paths. I, for example, now on Twitter, where do you know me on Twitter? But I'm very sure, do you know me? Do you know my
No, I
name?
don't know you.
But you know my face.
Yeah.
You know my account because that is my own brand. And I get most of the time, that is what helps me when I go for, even when I have mask, I have 2 masks. Even when I go to speak, I don't use mask. Why would I use mask? Because I want to be known. But whatever it is that you can use to identify me, okay, my full name, my age, my what's it called, all those PII, those sensitive information, what you can use to identify me. And that is when you can say, okay, I'm at risk. Or that is if I push out things that I'm not supposed to push out. Cybersecurity is a practice. When you look at it as a practice where everybody has a role to play, it is the shared responsibility thing. It's not as if okay, it's only a job for what's it called, the hackers or anything. Well, I don't want to take much time. I don't, but sincerely, build it. Mad. If you don't build a brand, if you don't build something for yourself, you want to stay anonymous. There are different ways you can stay anonymous. I can consider myself as being anonymous because some people don't even know my name. Everybody keeps asking me, what is your full name? What is my name? Those are some information. It's not as if, okay, I intend to keep them very, 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 very hidden. There are places you can go and get my name. For example, my LinkedIn. Why? My LinkedIn is pursued for a professional purpose, but the same face I put on Twitter is the same face I put on LinkedIn. Do you know the reason why? Because I want to be known and identified in a way, not completely identified. So, well,
Thank you.
that is my own thing.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Mr.
Okay, Mr.
24.
Percy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. 24. I mean, it's I'm learning a lot from the various points of views, and I think is that all about the hands we have with respect to contributions. If we have no other hand, I would love to also contribute that like what Welby said, putting your work out it depends on what you actually want to do with respect to be in cybersecurity. A lot of people join cybersecurity because they actually all they know about is the fact that they are hackers. They are cybersecurity for hackers. So when you are actually getting into cybersecurity, you actually need to know where you're driving at with respect to maybe a goal. Do you want to actually educate people, and what actually do you want to do? And I don't like. Okay, I'm seeing a hand.
Mr. Percy.
Percy.
Okay, please, Mr. Patrick, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you can hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, all right, I just to ask James, because James said something, and I like a lot of the things he said. He was the ethics of the job, but he said he got a job even without anything that relates to what he does. Then how did they give you the for interview to ask him that? Because forever, like I said, I've had over 20 years of protecting people. And what ethics are, I didn't have or people that doing things have been given that now, giving that to that job and deal with the principle of least privilege. When I'm giving like now Abuja and speaking a client, and you have people that are inside, you were 10 seconds doing what are you doing? It's only on the basis. Head office tells me, and as I thank someone that I should do, and even with that, there are information about the system that I'm working that he is supposed to know. He's supposed to give me access to what I need to do, and then from there, report back to Lagos. So I answer to them, liaising with the person that is from here. It speaks to the also to brand, and that is going to give you. When you get into with the current work with him. The first thing you do is disclosure. There are certain giving us into people, partners. What about those information? What if them? Compromising my and compromise me too. So giving us the same the motive you take. You have money, everything
Mr. Patrick,
thinking about.
Mr. Patrick, your line
Yes,
is
please.
breaking.
your
I don't
line
know
is
if it's
really,
just
really
from
breaking. I've been trying to make I'm trying to understand, decipher what you were saying, but it was really difficult for me, and I don't know if it's same for others. Maybe you just log out and come back again and let's try. Okay, before then, I have
Okay.
a question for Mr. Tata Derek. I think after this question, if there are no more questions, then we would have to come to Mr. Patrick, who have to make his point again. Then we would have to come to the end of the meeting. So, but let me ask. It's been long. I want to ask you this question, so it's an opportunity, and we'll have to take advantage of that. So, I want to ask because nobody is asking. We're still talking about if an ethical hacker needs to be anonymous or not. What I want to ask is if I decide to be anonymous, can I be 100% anonymous online? Is it possible to be 100% anonymous? Is there any way or form one can be 100% anonymous?
It's impossible as long as you're on Earth to be anonymous. Even after you die, people will still know you existed. So to me, there's no way for you to be totally 100% anonymous. There is always something that someone can get to you through that thing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was a very direct answer. Mr. Patrick, are you back? Because we are almost rounding up. If you're not back, Percy, I think you should take up from here and let's see if we can come to the end. It was really awesome listening to all of the people who gave us a lot of educative points. I'm happy, Mr. Tata Derek. I'm happy, James. I'm happy, Mr. Patrick. I'm happy, Mr. Otson. 24. Everybody, both people writing in the comments. I really am happy you guys joined. So, Percy, you could continue from here, sir.
I'm seeing all levels of anonymity. I'm seeing Raymond Reddington join this call. Like, who is Raymond Reddington? You know?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just actually wanted to shout out someone that just joined this call.
Yeah,
we may not all know
just
him.
saw him.
Oh, you saw him too. So he's,
Yeah,
I was
he's
highly
giving the
respected
shout
out
out.
there. Okay, yes, Percy, you can do the shout out. If you are short of words, I can contribute to that. I can add some.
Okay, I saw Mr. Gaspard. He's actually a very renowned hacker out there. A big shout out to you, sir. In fact, I'm actually short of words because he's actually doing a lot of stuff. And he has a lot of vulnerabilities to his name. If you check out, after this, you can check out his LinkedIn. You'll see the vulnerabilities that he has to his name. The ones that have been published and the ones that, maybe they have not actually validated yet, but he has those things. And he's actually, with respect, he's actually known as an ethical hacker. So it actually goes also to prove the point that, as an ethical hacker, it's good to actually put yourself out there, not your work, yourself, like Weldy earlier said. I'm also seeing a lot of people on the call. In fact, I'm just so overwhelmed. I am grateful for everybody who also joined this call and for the insights that have been given on the call. I don't know if Mr. Tata, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'll be very brief. So, Baye Gaspard has a lot of CVEs on his name, meaning he has discovered vulnerabilities that were not discovered by anyone before.
Wow, that's great.
We've been on some projects together. We've done a lot of pen tests together, and he is going to be one of the speakers at DEF CON. I believe all of us here know DEF CON. Being one of the speakers at DEF CON is not because he was hidden. People actually saw what he's been doing. Talking about AI is middle name, automating AI to do vulnerability analysis, pen testing, and so on. So he's done a lot of stuff, and he's written a lot of articles. He's at MIT right now, and he's done a lot of stuff. So I can't say all of it. When you Google his name, you're going to see a lot of stuff. Maybe his GitHub repositories, the vulnerabilities he's been able to discover, and the bounties he's been out there doing, and so on. So I mean, I could not just see him on the call and just keep quiet. I mean, that's someone we've been working together, and he's done a lot of things too. Yeah, you could equally get to him through LinkedIn.
Okay, really, I'm overwhelmed. I really wish I really want to hear him speak. Can he probably talk on the topic of our discussion if his mic is open? Sir, please could you um educate us, because I really want to listen to you. Tell me if it is necessary to be anonymous as an ethical hacker. Sir, please, thank you, and I'm honored.
Hello, everybody. Percy and Tata, you guys are just throwing a lot of. I think Percy and Tata exaggerated. I'm just a simple person who also is curious about security and it's constantly learning. Yeah, so I'm not as great as how they painted me. So what was the topic? Could someone remind me, please?
So the topic is does every hacker need to be anonymous on the internet?
Okay, well, it depends on what's your objective. Because if you're a hacker and you want to be a black hat hacker, then probably you want to be a criminal and you want to be on the ground, you want to be hidden, you want to, you don't want people to know you, because if people know you, they might easily connect you with some sort of patterns which relates to some cyber criminal activities or ransomware gangs or techniques that connect you with them. But if you are someone who have a positive mindset and who is ethical or a white hat hacker, then you have nothing to hide. Though it's somehow, it may come maybe dangerous sometimes. Let's say if someone is being threatened by your research, maybe you're a threat hunter or a vulnerability hunter, and then you found a threat that is organized by, let's say, a government, then at that point, you may be a threat to them because you're blocking the activity in that company or in the country. So that can cause a big issue if they know that you are the one working on that research. So being a public or a person who is maybe doing some public outings in the terms of security, I think it's okay. It just shows that you have nothing to hide and you're clean. But it can also come if, in case you're working on very secretive projects that deals with government related stuff. So if you want to be really safe, probably avoiding to expose certain secretive stuff that are maybe bound by NDAs or that are having top secret clearance. For example, here in the US, if you're working on certain projects that are top secret clearance or maybe even normal security clearance, you can't even tell it to your family, because your family might mistakenly tell it to their friend will mistakenly tell it to someone else, and then it falls in the hands of the adversary, who knows that, okay, this person X is working on this top secret project which is against us and which is against our national interest. And in that case, you'll be targeted by that government or by that entity or by that company. So that will put you at risk, not only you, but even your family or your friends. So knowing the balance between keeping secret what is ought to be secret and putting public what is ought to be public is the best optimal position to have. But by default, it's good to be aware, it's good to be informed, and it's good to avoid also exposing unnecessary information. Like, you don't have to post as more than you have to post. Meaning that if you're posting something, it shouldn't be that too personal that can even lead to password attacks or, knowing a lot about you. Because anything you post out there, it goes and it doesn't come back. Like, it is already in the internet and it will reside there forever. You just need to do the right search and you'll still have it. So be mindful of what you post, but it doesn't mean that you also have to be anonymous. If you have nothing to hide, do your thing, do you, and everything should be okay. Yeah, that's what I have.
Thank you very much.
Percy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insights and for making out time to actually jump on the call. When we saw you, when I saw you, I could not hesitate to actually give a shout out because your work out there actually motivates a lot of people, motivates me in particular to actually learn more, to actually work more, to actually also be able to learn and actually practice what I am learning. So without any waste of time, I think we've come to the end of this session. This was put together by Wealthy, who has been speaking, and the guest speakers we had Mr. Tata Derek, who is an ethical hacker and a freelancer who does a lot of stuff with respect. In fact, he's a purple teamer. He does red teams and blue team. We had Mr. Patrick, who is also a red teamer, and in fact, he's also a purple teamer. He said he does defending and he also does a bit of attack. And we are grateful for having you on the call. I am also grateful for the input from Mr. James, who is using an alias, and 24. And I'm grateful to have all of these people. In fact, everybody who commented and contributed to this amazing space. We are so grateful. I myself, I am Percy Gala, and it was a privilege to actually coordinate this session. We're going to be having a lot more of this, and once it is certain, once a date is put, once you have a topic, you're going to see the information out there, and we would just love that you also join in, you also share, so that at least we have a full house, and then we also have a lot of people who are going to learn and all that. Thank you very much. We're actually going to be ending the call. Thank you very much for making out time